sky. Landed in a field, baby, next to I-35. Well, I don't know what they want, but it might be you and I. Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Moot Davis, and this is another installment in the Moot Point podcast. Today is the second half of my interview with Bill Corvino. Again, I'm real happy with this interview, and we really got to know some good stuff about Bill, which is cool because, you know, a lot of the times Bill's sort of an unsung hero in the band, and you know, it's good to get part of his story out because he's quite a unique individual, and I really do like him as a person. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this second half of the show. In other news, I'm in Tampa, Florida right now, just hanging around waiting for rehearsals to begin for this $1 million quartet thing for Norwegian. And yeah, getting ready to go to France here in about a week and a half to finish out the final show for the year. And then on to the cruise ship and bumming around the Caribbean, and then even doing a transatlantic, they tell us, at some point next year. So it should be fun, should be a lot of traveling, and all the while folks are back you know, here in the United States working on getting the album set up and ready to release, and working on placements in film and television and all that good stuff. So hopefully I'll have some more good news for you shortly. But other than that, please sit back and listen to Bill Corvino spin his web. Enjoy it. Now, getting back to, you know, like when you said you overcame your shyness by like Jameson, I would say, I heard like, you know, guys like, who is Eddie Van Halen said he was like terribly shy and had this horrible fear of performing in front of people. So he was sort of, you know, drink to get over that hump. And then, you know, and I guess at some point he, you know, had to go and figured it out where it didn't sort of work for him anymore, and I know this story is similar to you where you know that sort of wasn't working for you anymore. And I wanted you to sort of talk about what it's like to now to have leaned on that as a crutch for performing in front of people, and then now not have that crutch and sort of it, you know, sort of be so present every time you're on stage. You know what I'm saying? And what that's like.
It's infinitely better.
Yeah.
Now, you know what I mean? Because the way I look at it, like now, like not drinking or anything at all, like nothing. I am very much like I kind of feel like there's how would I describe it? Like everything's on all the time now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sort of, I can't really turn my brain off anymore, which is sometimes not good. But
right.
But I don't feel like I run to that anymore, or turn things off with it anymore.
Right.
So I need something to cope with life because I don't have that.
Right.
And now the guitar is completely that thing. Like I don't have any.
Right.
Like I don't have any other shield other than that.
Right.
So over the years, since I stopped drinking, it's gotten a lot strong. My relationship to the guitar is much stronger because there's nothing else. It's kind of there's no filter between me and that, and so for me personally, it's like my thing that helps me cope with you know, the life experience.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. It's great that you have that, you know. And so let's talk about the first time that you and I met. And I always goof and tell the story on stage, but tell it from your view and probably how more it really was. So. But let's talk about like the first time we met and then how we eventually came to work together, from your perspective.
So I teach. I've been teaching for years as an adjunct professor at a community college near where Moot grew up, and so I teach a beginner's guitar class there, and Moot took the class one semester. I didn't know anything who he was, and at all. So I started teaching that semester, and at some point you came up to me, and you were saying that you were going to be away. You were going to be away for a few weeks, for a couple of weeks. You were going to France and playing some shows, and would it be all right if you were out for a couple of weeks? And I was like, yeah, sure. Just keep up with the stuff or whatever. And then we started talking. I was just curious. I didn't know whether you were in what kind of band or whatever. And then you started talking about it and mentioned, dropped Pete Anderson's name, and Pete being somebody that I listened to hugely, when I started playing country and trying to figure it out, I found those Dwight records from the 90s to be something I could understand, more so than kind of a lot of the 90s top 40 country was that sort of huge, a lot of production, a lot of layers of guitars, and people like Brent Mason, who I have no idea what the hell he's doing at all. Right. So when I happened upon specifically Dwight records, and then Marty Stewart records, I could understand. I was like, okay, I get that. Right. That's really cool. What they're doing, and I can understand what to some extent the sounds that they're making. So he was a huge part of my listening in the 90s, trying to make sense out of country. And then so when you dropped his name, it was kind of like, holy crap. And then you explained that you were on Little Dog, and that he'd been playing guitar for you for a few years and producing your records and everything, and which was mind-blowing to me. And weird that it was, I don't mean to get weird, but it seemed very bizarre to me that here was this guy that I was completely I would walk around in during certain periods of the 90s just going, Pete Anderson, yeah. People, that was all all I listened to. Those when they hit their stride, when he hit his stride production wise and stuff, that string of records, I just felt like, God, it's so bizarre that this dude would walk into my class and then Pete's his guitar player, and then you would mention that when you got back, if I would be interested in putting an East Coast band together for you, to which I was like, hell yeah, and then you left. Right. You gave me your CDs, the 2 CDs at the time, and then you left, and then I never saw you again. and let me explain this clearly, folks, especially to you prospective students out there, that there's a withdrawal date for a class, right? And we here's where it's going to erupt into a fist fight. In the interim, after those couple of weeks, or I never heard from you again. So the withdrawal date, we had gone beyond the withdrawal date at that point. And so I had no way to withdraw you and no contact with you because I think by that time you'd moved to New Zealand or Mars or something. and so there was, you vaporized. And so I really, there's a computer program to grading and I couldn't get into withdrawal at all. So at that point I was forced to give you an F. And then the famous email that I sent you. Which,
right. And what did the email say?
The email said, "Dear Moot, sorry I had to give you an F for the class, but if you ever need a guitar player, please give me a ring." Or something like that. XOXO. Professor Corvino.
I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect. And so I didn't move to New Zealand. I was coming from New Zealand when I took your class, and then for whatever reason, when I got back, I think this was in November, and I think when I got back from France, I decided that I was going to try and move to Austin, Texas,
right.
and see how that worked out. And had this lost year in Austin, Texas. And as I was coming out of that year, I remember sending you an email or giving you a call or whatever it was, and lining up our first rehearsal with a band that you put together with Joe Meckler and Mike Mean and
Jim Heffernan.
And Jim Heffernan, yeah.
Originally, you called me. I remember you called me on January 2nd, 2010.
Really?
I remember that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
So that was cool.
So was that the first we'd spoke since the email?
I think you may have responded to the email, and then I don't think. Well, you may have emailed me sometime in the interim, but it was like an interim of a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so I'd pretty much, I just,
sure.
had just figured, okay. And so the call, the call came out of the blue. I think you just called just like the day
just
after
when
New
things
Year's
were going well.
Things were looking up. But yeah, no, there may have been an email preceding the call, but it may have been a cold call. I'm not exactly sure. But
right on.
For some reason, I remember it was the day after New Year's.
And then what was our first getting together and playing like? Do you remember? Do you have any thoughts from those first rehearsals?
Yeah, it was cool. I remember I remember prior to the rehearsal, to getting together the very first time. I remember I took the first two records and completely, I still have them. They're completely transcribed because I really wanted to make you happy. So I wrote out I spent 2 weeks every night, all night, driving my wife crazy. Just just playing Think of It Now over and over and over, or and then going to the next track and just scribbling every note out that Pete played and trying to learn it verbatim, and so no, the first rehearsal was cool because Joe, Meckler's my best bud, so
right,
that was completely relaxing, and I knew Mike for years, and Jim's super cool, so it was a blast.
Right
on.
On.
Very cool.
And then how long into it was it that we all started, I would bring in a song and we would start working on new stuff? Did it take a while, or?
Well, I guess we played the first we played a few shows, and then I think Jim, it was kind of a mutual decision that he wasn't kind of, that he wasn't having a good time, but it
It
he
seemed to
didn't
work
really have
better
the,
as a 4-piece.
yeah, it was a little leaner and meaner.
Yeah.
I remember we played, like, Jim kind of bowed out, and then we played the Saint in Asbury Park on a Sunday, and we were opening for some guy, and there were 4 people maybe in the bar. I mean, there was nobody there, but I just remember it was the first time we played as a 4-piece, and it rocked. Like, there was nobody there, but it was just like really lean and mean,
right?
Guitar driven stuff. Not that it was, but it was less traditional,
right?
It wasn't like it was less traditional. It was a little more rocking. It felt friggin' great. I just remember it felt really, really good that day, and I don't know whether it was just me or not, right. But then I remember, like, around that time, which was maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months into getting together, that you started bringing tunes in.
Okay.
Like tunes that had just been written. I mean, we kind of went through the back catalog, like the demo.
Right, learning.
And some of the prior to Pete stuff. I think you did something in Maine or something, or
oh yeah.
Right, like
that was the first recording I ever did. Yeah.
Right, like you gave me a copy of that, and we did a couple tunes off that, and then I think after Jim left, then you started bringing in, like, brand spanking new ones that you just started writing, like Queensberry Rules and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and so then we were, you'd bring in like two or three of them, and we'd spend like a few hours bashing them out.
Yeah,
and then put down a crude recording.
Yeah.
And then and that was a blast. I remember going home from, like, those rehearsals and just being completely, like, coffeeed out, like, caffeinated out the wazoo, and just, like, sitting on my back patio smoking cigarettes and just going, that was awesome. That was great. And because it was just so good. I mean, like, I'd been trapped in, like, bar band land, for so long. Not that but I had, the thought of just bashing out completely original things and having the freedom to, come up with parts, and then if you okay them, then, like,
right,
using those and like, it was just awesome that it was like, finally I was like, yes, we're creating, we're making art or whatever, if that's
it's true. Yeah.
And so that used to come home from those, I'd get home at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m, and then stay awake till like 4 5, just completely buzzing on the rehearsal and the 5 gallons of coffee.
Right.
But that was great. And and then I remember you sent those initial ones to Pete.
I sent all of those demos to Little Dog, because I was still on Little Dog at the time,
right?
but I think the decision had already been made that we weren't going to be making any more records, at least on their end, what I mean, as far as I could tell, because everything we sent them, everything that would become the Man About Town album, they turned down. They said it wasn't up to snuff. So it's crazy. Yeah, I remember, because at the time I was working at a auto parts packing plant, like a shipping place. And we'd get home from those rehearsals really late, but I'd have all those recordings on my phone, and I would listen to them throughout the day of, sort of drudgery that I was going through, and it certainly helped. And then how long would you say it was before we were, like, actually out on the road together and doing shows, across the states?
Well, there was that first year or so we were working on the songs that ended up on Man About Town, right? And then that came out, and then there was, I guess that came out the following year.
Right.
And then you and Mike started doing or you and Mike started doing some gigs with
Down in Nashville.
Right, with some other people, and then you shot me an email to come down, and so I came down, and it was me, you, and Mike, and
Blake on the
Blake.
drums. Yeah.
Blake. Sorry, Blake. But Blake and we did Layla's and Ernest Tubbs record shop.
Oh,
and,
right, for the little record release, yeah.
And that was my first time in Nashville.
Right.
And so that was, I'll always remember that. That was awesome. It
Yeah.
was amazing,
Yeah.
Going to Roberts and hearing Chris Casello.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And, and all those crazy people, and it was awesome, and we were only there for like 2 days.
I know.
But that was my first road trip.
Right.
And then a little ways past that, I think we might have done a couple of New York City things,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and like some
that.
things with Jay.
Oh,
Jay
Jay Leibowitz, yeah.
And I remember shortly after that was we went to. Joe and I flew in and out of Austin. I can't remember what the first Texas stuff was, but Texas was another thing where going to Texas, it
Austin,
was like going to Venus.
Yeah.
It was like, wow. There's it just seems like a whole different mindset there musically.
Yeah.
As far as support of original music,
right?
Songwriters, it's like a religion down there. So
yeah,
that was. I remember we flew into Austin. Joe and I, we met you guys there. You were doing duo shows, and then I can't remember exactly what places we played.
I think we played the Blackheart when you guys got there. Right?
Yeah, that's right. We played the Blackheart. We played in Waxahachie.
Waxahachie, yeah.
No, and we ended up at Sam's Burger Joint.
Right.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
Every gig that trip was awesome. I think we played that Rocket Cafe and stuff. And it was super cool, and everybody was really cool. And
is that where we picked up Sherry?
Yeah, because we met Carrie Dean. I think we did
and
we might have done the radio show that. No, we did Houston. We did a radio show in Houston. I think, like a public station.
Yeah.
And then I just remember sitting with Meckler in the San Antonio airport at like 4 or 5 in the morning, waiting for the flight, and just being like, what was that? Like Texas was just a completely different experience. It was wonderful. People were super cool, and
yeah,
it was just like a different system than again, that sort of respect for songwriters, your stuff. So it was really, really cool. Like I just remember being like, where are we? Like where it really did feel like going to a different planet. And so there was that, and then just hitting a lot of Texas, and we did a lot of stuff in Nashville, and then up in New York State, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And then what was the first Europe trip we did together like?
France.
Yeah.
We played that festival. Met Didier and George, and that was awesome. That was amazing.
Right, that was the four of us. That was you, me, Joe, and Mike.
Yep,
right?
That was the four of us, and we played in the Normandy area. We played a big festival there, which was super cool, and a big stage, and a lot of people, and that was something where I was not used to. I was not accustomed to that. Like I'm accustomed to playing a bar in New Jersey and going up, and having somebody ask me to not block the football game on the TV behind me, and then going up to the bar to get a soda and having to explain to the bartender that I'm in the band.
Right.
So I get my sodas for free, and going to Europe, going to France was like all of a sudden, we played that first festival, and we got off, and I remember we went to the merchandise table or whatever, and people were asking to take photos for me to take photos with their
Yeah.
their kids and their families and sign things and caring,
Yeah.
like responding and that was completely shocking to me.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. It was an awesome trip, and it was that gig, and then we drove like that was the. Then there was a couple days of darkness driving through the center of. Well, that's when we went to that casino, that town on the coast that had a casino hotel.
Oh, right.
That's that whole thing.
Right.
And then we drove down through the entire center of France to Limoges, and
Right.
we played a festival there that was kind of a smaller festival. It was kind of out in the hills,
Mm-hmm.
out in the middle of nowhere, at a riding academy or something, some sort of like equestrian thing, and that was cool. That was it was a smaller event than the first one, but
Right.
but it was super cool, and everybody was. I mean, I still trade messages with people that I met, and
it's wild.
It's really cool. It's glad that I got to experience that.
Yeah.
And then I'll never, like, again, talking about, when we went to Switzerland, I remember we played the festival in Zurich, and I remember being at the merchandise table next to you, and there was a guy kind of walking towards me, and like, just like walking kind of intently, like straight towards me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, what did I do? And he just came straight up, and he was like, he was a writer for a magazine
right.
there, and and he was like, the Going It Hot CD is the best. I gave it a 4-star write-up or a 5-star write-up, and I haven't, that's the only other albums I'd ever given that to were like Guitar Town and like some other monstrously cool record, like a Dwight record, I think,
Right.
and I was like, what? And he's like, and guitar playing and blah blah blah, and it's been in my stereo for 6 straight months, and blah, and he knew my name, and I was just blown away that I could be in another part of the world. And again, that somebody cares. About and then like I said, a week later I was blocking the football game.
Yeah.
At a local Jersey bar again, so it was definitely like it's always been an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Thank you, Moot.
And now, so you mentioned that you're a father and you have 3 kids, right? And you're married. And what's it like juggling the whole thing of like, because when we go, we don't go for like months at a time, but we go and even like a day away or an afternoon away, I'm sure is puts a lot of like, there has to be like a lot of coordination in your side of the family and all that kind of stuff. So how does that work out with you guys? I mean, and does it get easier, or does it just get harder? And
no, well, I mean, luckily, my wife Cammie is awesome about it and extremely supportive of it. I mean, there have been times where I've, I know it's a lot of pressure on her when I go away,
mm-hmm.
And to your credit, you've been cool with kind of keeping it. I mean, the longest that I personally was out with you was 3 weeks. When we did that southern run.
Right. That
so
was
it's never been like long. It never was longer than 3 weeks was the most. That we were out continuously, and which was hard on her, and but she believes in it, which
mm-hmm.
is awesome, because that's not easy, and so I think she's been as excited about it over the years as I have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I try to share that with her as much as possible. You know, like talking on Skype, or you know, sending pictures of wherever we are, or trying to describe wherever we are, and so you know, I think that she has been extremely supportive, and the kids, you know, it is kind of hard on the kids. You know, I know when I leave, like there's always the night before, you know, which is always heartbreaking, and you know, and it's kind of like, you know, leaving really early in the morning usually, and so there's always kind of putting them to bed the night before is always really tough. You know, I end up shedding a tear or two, and then you know, and then I get in the car and I freaking forget all about it. No, I'm kidding. But no, I bring on the Coke and whores. No, but she's been incredibly supportive, and luckily, my mother-in-law, her mother is a saint, huge saint, and the two of them are amazing, and I love them dearly and appreciate with the utmost their support and help, because it's not like we're rich, you know, and it's not like I'm bringing home a suitcase full of cash, so you know, but they are you know, she has been very much like, not, you know, I've always kind of said to her the whole time, kind of our deal was, when you need me to stop, I'll stop. You know, when you tell me to, you know, to cash my chips in, I will. And she hasn't. So, right. So that's been, you know, I again, hugely appreciate it, and so I tried to make it, you know, again, because you know, I don't. You know, I'm happily married. I love my kids, so I try to make them as much part of it. I mean, I remember being down in Bradfordville Blues Club in that big band house, and being on Skype with my son Evan, and like playing hide and seek with the, you know, like we were in that big long rancher house, and like putting the iPad on the floor, and then like running from room to room, like a Scooby-Doo episode, and him like, you know, trying to spot me or whatever, and like just doing, you know, just trying to include them as much in it as I can. I mean, they all know the words to all your songs, and damn that midnight train, right. Whiskey's gonna rot their brains, and so it's been, you know, including them as much as possible, and always have appreciated that you've kept. I remember the first Europe trip. I remember you calling me and being like, "Yeah, well, we're gonna go to France for." It's gonna be like a month, and then we're gonna go to. Mike and I are gonna go to Ibiza or somewhere, you know. Ibiza. And just being like, I don't know if that's going to work. And so, you know, I remember, you know, a couple days later you calling and being like, okay, it's going to be a week. And I'm like, okay. And, you know, again, not to be maudlin, but I hugely appreciate that. Of course. That's, you know, that's been a consideration, because, you know, that's not, you know, I know that that's not always easy, you know. I appreciate that. Of course. Well, look, you know, I'm lucky to have you, and I'm lucky to get to play music with you, and you know, I sincerely appreciate all the sacrifices that you guys make to come out and play, you know. So yeah. I mean, it's good all the way around. But not to put you on the spot, but will you pick a song to wrap up this episode from the Going In Hot album that is, you know, one of your faves? How about Walk Alone? You got it. It's got a good Stonesy vibe to it. All right, sounds good. Thanks again, Bill. Thank you, sir. All right, buddy. Traveling down that lonesome highway,
Right